gentlemen. I appreciate y'all coming out. We've got a lot of questions and stuff, but let's start the program. We'll answer all of your questions. My name's Todd. I'm Todd Flip. I'm the mayor. I haven't met you. Welcome. And thanks for coming out. I honestly wasn't sure who maybe we're going to show up tonight, so I'm glad to see y'all here. This is a cool project for us, one we've been talking about for a long time. This was voted on in 21, so we're just trying to get around to it. It's going to be a big one. So we'll just answer questions and show you what we're thinking. A lot of folks from Kinley Horn are here. They're going to do most of the talking. They're engineers. They're smart folks. A lot of answers, but we're all here as well. Let me quickly introduce city people that are here. City Manager Gabe Rams in the back, if you don't know Gabe. Mayor Pro Tem Paul Flaken's in the back. Councilmember Nick Lawson's in the back. Councilmember Mary Copeland's right here. Councilmember Sean Morrison is right there. That's everybody, I think. Also, we have Randy Newsom, Director of Public Works, Randy Newsom. Pedro Zambrano, Director of Economic Development, Community Affairs, a lot of cool stuff. Vicky's here. Excuse me.
That's okay.
No, who else is here from the city? Oh, Ellen's here. Library Director Ellen Ritchie, who is so happy to be in our new building. Everybody loved this building. This is an amazing building. This building was voted on in 2021 bond election as well, so this is a result of that. We're delivering on what we promised to the citizens. We would not have built any of this stuff if y'all didn't say yes. Would not have. So that's where it comes out. I'm going to turn it over to our engineer, city engineer, Trent Tidwell from Kinley Horn. He's going to do a lot, but he's got a lot of folks here to help. So welcome.
And you got your own. Does this work, Pedro? Or is it not loud enough?
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Can everyone else hear me? Yes? All right, I think we're good. I'll talk loud. All right, thank you for coming. We're excited to talk more about Mcleroy Phase 3. I'll touch on a few other projects as well, but that'll be our focus tonight. Like you said, my name is Trenton Tidwell. I serve as the city engineer for Saginaw. With me, I just want to introduce Mason Schott here and Max Blake. Hopefully they've been helpful with answering your questions already, but they've worked hard on this project, so hopefully they can answer any other questions you have after the meeting. We're going to start by just clarifying which phases we're talking about, because I know this can kind of be a little confusing at times. The number of the phases for Mcleroy is a little counterintuitive because it does go from right to left. But all of these phases are on the city CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. And so, Capital Improvement Plan, we're going to focus on the yellow, which is Phase 3 today. But we'll start from left to right. So Phase 4 is in the red. That is west of Knowles. There's currently no design activity and no funding for construction for that phase. As you move to the right in the black, that is actually Knowles project. And the Knowles roundabout should be complete in the next few weeks and open to traffic. Right now we're waiting on the illumination to be powered and turned on so that people can see at night when they start using that roundabout. There's also 300 to 400 feet of Mcleroy built with that phase. You might have seen the new culverts and new sidewalks that are going in just west of that intersection. Phase 3 is in the yellow. That's what we'll talk about today. Obviously, it is funded for design and construction, going to construction next summer. And then Phase 2A is just east of there. So that includes the intersection at Main Street and then all the way to Spring Hollow. We're currently working on the design for 2A, but there is currently no funding for construction. So that intersection will require a lot of permitting and reviews from TxDOT, as well as the railroad. So we're trying to get ahead of that process and get all those balls rolling. Making some good progress on that right now. And then 2B is the blue and 1 is the pink. Those phases also do not have any design funds or construction funding at the moment. I'm not the most qualified person to talk about some of the development activity that is happening, but there has been some progress. It's been hot or cold for development on the very east side to talk about realigning and reconstructing Mcleroy. I know that's a high priority for everyone with the really poor pavement conditions out there, so I think the city's eager to get something rolling on that side soon. As a reminder, the funding for this project, which is just under $12 million for construction, was from the 2021 bond program that was voter approved. And And this would be the last construction project funded from that program. And it was Prop A, which was streets and roadway improvements. To just talk about the project limits a little more specifically, we start just east of where the roundabout and the Mcleroy tie-in is built. And then we are stopping short of Main Street, just about where the driveway is for the Jack in the Box and the racetrack there. And that's to leave room for the future lanes and the widening, hopefully, of the intersection at Main Street. Okay, so existing conditions, you're all pretty familiar with this. We're going to talk a lot in terms of east side, west side today. Usually that dividing line is at Western, so just east of here, of where we are right now. So the west side, west of Western, currently is a 3-lane asphalt road. Pavement conditions are pretty low, and then there is no curb and gutter right now, no storm drain, so all the water is just getting into the ditches. On the east side, mainly a 2-lane road. We do have some on-street parking there for the cemetery, and there is a lot of curb and gutter on the east side, but there's not a lot of actual storm drain system where the rain goes under the water. All of it just gets to Main Street, and we've kind of seen how that's handled at Main Street. In the proposed improvements, we're going to take, we're going to put curb and gutter along the entire length of the road, and then especially in that west half, we'll have a big improvement by having the storm drain system underground, to where all that water will be in the pipes rather than in the ditches. We're also raising and widening the crossing that floods almost every year, right by the police station, so that won't be closed down in the future. There'll be a big improvement to that. Also on the east side, there is some sanitary sewer lines that are underneath the pavement, so when we rebuild a road that should last 30, 40 years, we like to redo the utilities that are under the road so we don't have to rip it up once those start to fail. Along the corridor, we'll also have pedestrian improvements. I'll talk about those on the next slide, but we'll have a shared use path, which is a little bit wider. It varies from 8 to 10 feet, and the idea is that people can walk on that, and bikes can also bike and feel comfortable on the same sidewalk. The south side will have a typical 5-foot wide sidewalk. Those are less ideal for bikes, so hopefully bikes are staying on the north side. So these are what we call typical sections. If you want to orient yourself, this is as if you're walking or driving along Mcleroy. The north side, so where we are right now, is on the left. The south side of the road is on the right. So that north side, like I was talking about, will have that wider 8-feet sidewalk or shared use path, or the 10-foot wide sidewalk or shared use path. So on the west side of the corridor, we're going to have a 2-lane divided. What that means is 1 lane in each direction, and then in between will be a raised median with curb, and that's why we call it a divided section. The city decided to do a divided section for the corridor a couple of years ago. Whenever we redid our vision for the corridor, a lot of walkability, pedestrian friendly, bike friendly. We felt like that made sense with the city facilities in the corridor, the development of the senior living, and the schools. So this divided section will allow for better landscaping and aesthetics, and also improve the safety by having access controlled where we want people to turn, rather than the center turn lane where people can turn whenever they want. When you have that raised median, it lowers the probability of crashes, and so that's a big safety improvement. East of Western, currently is at 2-lane, so we'll be widening to the 3-lane section, which is also a safety improvement. So instead of stopping and hoping that someone's not on their phone behind you, you can be in the 2-way left turn lane, and hope it should lower like rear end collisions, stuff like that. There was also a challenge for fitting a similar section like the divided section east of Western, because we call it right away, like the space where you can build a road is a lot tighter. And there's so many existing businesses and driveways that having those raised medians would really be challenging. To have all the openings you would need, you wouldn't have a raised median. So that typical section made a lot more sense for the east side of the corridor. So the project timeline, we're currently finishing up design by the end of the year. We're in the final stages. And then early next year, we're hoping to take the project to the contractors to get bids and pricing on the project. And then while we're doing that, the utilities, such as the overhead electric, the gas lines, the fiber optic cables and telephone lines will be relocating to get out of the way. We started that process back in January, so we're hoping 18 months will be enough time. All of our progress so far is indicating that that will be enough time, and we've been in touch with all the companies, and they're currently designing their new facilities. So the latest updates from them is that they'll be clear by May of next year. So once they're clear, we will start the actual construction of the road in the summer of '26. Unfortunately, we are anticipating this to take about 2 years, which I know is a pain point. But whenever you're prioritizing keeping access throughout the corridor, and we always want traffic to be able to flow, we're not going to shut down the road at all. When you split it into phases like that, projects take longer. So, and I'll talk more about those phasing here in a second. So, similar theme of east and west. We're planning on building the east side of the corridor first. The dividing line here isn't western, where we're splitting up the phasing, it's actually opal. And we did that on purpose to help the traffic with the school, because we know this will be overlapping 2 school years, maybe 3, depending on when it actually starts. Like I said, we're always going to have traffic flowing, but it'll only be one lane of traffic. So after we coordinated with police, fire, and the school district, and the city staff, we decided to always allow traffic to travel east. So you'll notice on the next few slides, the black arrow is always pointing to the east. So the main difference for this section, like if you were to approach the cemetery or the school, is that you won't be able to access from the boulevard. You'd be detoured. If I were accessing those frequently, I'd probably use Opal. I know a lot of school traffic uses Opal right now, or any of the roads to the west. So you could use Amber, you could use Knowles, you could use anything to the west to get to Mcleroy and then travel eastbound. We'll be building the north path first and then the south path second here. There will also be a phase where we have to put in that new sanitary sewer line, the utilities. Just to zoom in on the cemetery, I know there's been a couple of questions about this. So there's 2 driveways there, and we're being very intentional about that with our contractors. Our plan right now is to have them, they have to request approval from the cemetery to close either one of those driveways. It wouldn't be both at the same time. Unfortunately, having one or the other open at a time doesn't really help because you can't really connect between the 2. So our plan is to only allow the closure for 3 days, and they have to request that a week in advance. And so I know the cemetery doesn't know their schedule well in advance, usually. And so our idea is that if they request it, say the Thursday or Friday before, the cemetery will know if they have any funerals planned that next week. And then we're going to make them use concrete that can be driven on about a day later after it's poured. So that 3-day window should allow them to remove it, form up the driveway, and then place that driveway. That's our goal. We have an awesome inspector here in the back of the room, and so he'll help us make sure that we minimize disruptions to any funeral services. The parking, unfortunately, during construction won't be accessible. And so what we're going to plan to do, you can see, does this work here? No. You can see the library parking that was just constructed on the very left side of the screen. We'll have that available for parking, and then if we need to, we'll build a sidewalk that can help people walk back and forth during construction. Just to zoom in on the school, we already talked about using Opal and going eastbound, but this is another, we looked at every set of driveways for every business and facility. This is one where we can't alternate the driveways because of how they do drop off and pick up. So we'll have these driveways built in halves to where you can still enter in on the west one and exit on the east one like they do today. And so when we worked with the school district during the planning stages of this, that's how they wanted that to be built. Okay, so this is now starting the phases that are west of Opal. We'll be building Opal here in halves so that school traffic can still come up Opal and take a right. But this will be built in 2 phases as well. We'll start with the south side of the road because that allows traffic to stay on the existing road on the north side. And then we'll switch over to the north side after that. There's actually an interim phase before both of those where we build the storm drain system, so there may be a little bit back and forth, but we're trying to simplify it by always having people travel east. So if you want to access anything along this corridor, we would encourage you to enter from Knowles. And we're going to prioritize, for the most part of the corridor, that for the side streets, when we have to build them in halves, that we allow traffic to get off of Mcleroy, but not come to Mcleroy. That's going to be a little bit inconvenient for everyone, but if we get used to coming from Knowles, it should be a fairly straightforward way to access everything. Opal will be the exception to that because of the school. We will always allow traffic to go north on Opal and get to the road. That may change just depending on how emergency services likes that lane once we get actually started. Okay. So this slide was a little more important. Oh, is that me? Before, when we started, there was actually only 2 sidewalks, 2 crosswalks, but now there's 3. Now that the library and the senior center are finished. So actually, we will be matching the placement of the existing crosswalks with the new crosswalks. So there will be one at Amber, one at the library and senior center, and then one at the school. All of these crosswalks will be marked with pavement markings, signage, and then also the push buttons where the bright lights flash, so they can be seen better at night and during the day. Okay, I think a lot of y'all, looks like we've had some good voting on this already. With that western side of the road having the raised median, there was some good dialogue between staff, council, and the design team about what should we do with that, what really fits the context of the corridor, what are the maintenance issues with some of these options, what are the upfront costs, and we honestly found pros and cons for all the options, and so there was a decision of let's get some input from the citizens. So we're bringing to y'all today 8 options that we'd like some input on, and I'm going to talk through them briefly, but we're happy to answer more specific questions afterwards if you like. In general, how many stickers were you giving people, Max? 2 greens? 2 green, 1 red? Okay. So,
can you walk us through each one, what's the pros and cons?
Yep, yeah, certainly. So 2 green, 1 red, and ideally we'll get some good input. And then we also have comment cards if you want to write down anything specific that you're looking for that maybe you didn't see. So we're going to start top left here. These top 2 on the left are more of a native plant, and so they don't require a lot of irrigation. And then also they pair well with a lot of like rock or hardscaping, and so we're seeing this a little more often. Now the initial cost of this I would say is mid-level compared to maybe a cheaper option like grass without irrigation, or one of the more expensive options, which would be like these stamped concrete, colored concrete options. There will still be some maintenance with this, obviously with the loose gravel or rocks, and then the maintenance of those shrubs.
After about, say, 4 or 5 years, I've seen some cities do that, and they start getting a lot of weeds in there.
Yeah. Yeah, one major, and I can repeat that figure if you like. Councilman Lawson said after 4 or 5 years, a lot of cities he's seen do these types of options. There's issues with weed control, and we do see that a lot with like the decomposed granite, the small rocks that you put in there. So if we were to go that route, we'd either need to really plan on doing a lot of maintenance, weed prevention, or perhaps we pair those plants with maybe more rocks or stamped concrete. So going to the top one here in the 3rd column, that's a little more bold idea where it's just native plants, native flowers, and you don't really mow it. Some cities are moving towards this. There is some concern of how appealing that is to the eye to everyone, if everyone really understands the point of it, or if they just be calling people to mow the median. So major benefits with the lower maintenance, lower initial costs. If you're a big fan of bees and pollinating, I think there's some benefits there. But not sure if it's everyone's favorite aesthetic. One of the more creative options over on the far right up the top is actually artificial turf. Some of like the big box stores lately are actually experimenting with this. I think Costco and Sam's actually are doing this more. So this would obviously drastically decrease your need for maintenance. The cost of it isn't the highest. It'd be comparable to like an irrigation system with grass. And then it'd have a year-round look, obviously. So the only maintenance you'd need to do on this is blow it off with a leaf blower or hose it off every now and then.
How often do they need to be replaced? Does the sun bleach it?
Yeah. So Benjamin's question was, how often does it need to be replaced, and can like the color fade with the constant sunlight? So I haven't done many of these personally, but the product manufacturing that we've seen, it says they have a design life of 20, 30 years. I haven't really seen a lot that are faded, but you do see them wear. The places I've seen them wear the most, though, are where you see a lot of foot traffic. So knowing that there's going to be no foot traffic here, I think it's still a viable option. John?
I know we had talked at the council meeting about we had talked about at the council meeting the cost of maintenance over time. And that was the cost savings on turf, honestly, are probably enough that in that 20-year time span, you have to start looking bad to replace it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saving a lot of money by going with turf.
Yeah, compared to grass with irrigation, if you're just looking at a financial standpoint, the break even is about 12 years. And that assumes mowing costs, weed control, all of that goes into, it goes into it. So about a 12-year break even. So even if you were replacing it every 20, 30 years, you could still save money compared to other options. Just to quickly go through, you're good. The lower options, I haven't memorized, so it's all good. This option is just normal Bermuda grass without irrigation, so that's why we showed a little bit discolored. So it may get burned out in the summer, obviously dormant in the winter. Right here would be our standard irrigated Bermuda, so that would be similar to what's on like Bailey Boswell with that divided median right now. That's kind of your standard section. I would just say the city does have a lot of maintenance that goes on with those irrigation systems, and that's one of the main reasons we've questioned if that's the right fit for every corridor. Hardscapes, these last two are combinations of just like colored stamped concrete. You'll see this like in the medians, often at the roundabout, you'll see colored stamped concrete. It won't look like this. One of the most expensive options up front, but obviously absolutely zero maintenance concerns after that. And then this is a combination perhaps of like the natural landscaping and the hardscaping. This is probably our most expensive option because it takes a lot to pour those fancy colored concretes, not straight lines.
Could you put stamped concrete in something other than just red top?
Could you do a stamped concrete in something other than just the red brick, is what he asked? Certainly. So, and if you've snuck through the construction site over at the roundabout, we actually have a stone pattern that's like a dark tan, is the color in the central median of the roundabout. And then all the raised medians as you approach the roundabout. So if this were the option, maybe perhaps something you could do is have where it's a full median, the full, what's the width of the median?
12 feet.
12 feet? No, I think it's 12. Is it? Okay, yeah, because we have that extra space in the way. Okay, so the full 12 feet would, perhaps you could do the tan with a stone, and then as it narrows down to 4 feet or so for the turn lanes, you can have that be brick red would be an option.
And so if you went with that, then it would be a bigger upfront cost, but the payoff would be about 12 years, in other words.
Compared to which option?
Compared to, say,
This one?
those, with irrigation.
I have to look at the actual like break even. The break even we ran was the artificial turf versus that. So assuming this is a little more expensive, you might be looking at 15 years. But this 18 years. This should last outlast the road, right? Because no one's driving on it. So that would last 40 years.
So, you said it's little to no maintenance. I mean, we've seen what's happening on Blue Mountain, over on Boat Club, the grassy weeds that start popping up in between.
The cracks.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's supposed to be no maintenance, but I mean, is there some kind of warranty on the installation too? Because I mean, I've seen where it's buckled in places when they do that. I've seen the pavers. I know on Boat Club they actually did pavers, and those are just buckling. So I think it's a concern for me.
Yeah. So in Saginaw, we haven't been doing a lot of actual pavers. It's all been colored stamped concrete, which luckily it looks so good often people can't tell the difference. But so there would be no like joints between bricks. The only joints where weeds could probably infiltrate would be between the back of the curb and there, and then maybe anywhere where we have like a saw dummy joint or contraction joint. So certainly, yeah, there may be weeds there that require spraying or weed eating.
Just with the stamped concrete, if you do have to do maintenance across it, if you have road issues or things like that, it's almost impossible to repair. I mean, you're getting
You have
that
to cut it
pattern, getting
open.
that pattern realigned.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about this road's gonna last for years and years, but things do happen.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot more than anything else when we do something like that. You'd like to have something that is repairable if it needs to be repaired. If it does heave,
Yeah, that's a fair point. I wouldn't be as concerned about it heaving or moving, but the point of like if you ever do cut it open, it is hard to match the colors exactly. We'll always have the spec of the colors, but say that color business goes out of business or something. The benefit of this road, though, I will say, is that we don't have a sanitary sewer line under where these will be, and we don't have a water line. And then all the development has already occurred. So a lot of times when you see people cutting trenches across roads, it's for sewer services, water services to new developments, but everything's already developed and built. And so we shouldn't have a lot of that going on. It should be pretty infrequent.
I just wanted to say, I know council and city staff are concerned about costs and especially long-term costs on things. Because the last 4 years, all of us that live here, we've all seen, our lawnmower man doesn't charge $20 anymore, he charges 40 and water costs more. All that being said, I've lived here 17 years and I've seen Longhorn get built. They have nice grass. I've seen Basswood get built. They have nice grass and trees. I've seen Bailey Boswell get built. They have nice grass and trees and stamped concrete. And Mcleroy is in front of our city hall and our brand new fire station and our brand new beautiful library and senior center and our rec center. And I think it's important for the street to look nice where the median is. I don't want to just throw money at it, but I think it's probably a more important part of the city than Longhorn or something, where there's no city buildings off of it. Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. And I think that we echo that sentiment, and I think that's something about bringing up these long-term costs is that we're hoping to shed some light on that. We don't have to pick the cheapest option up front. We can pick one that makes sense both from an aesthetic standpoint and from a long-term cost of maintenance. And I think talking through it, we found that a lot of these are more viable options than we realized.
One of the other things too, if you look across the Metroplex, they're trying to get rid of some of the concrete and more grasses and stuff, just because summers are hot here and keep the area cooler. So that's another thing to consider.
Is it necessary to have a median?
I'll repeat it if that's okay. She said, is it necessary to have a median?
Why can't you just have a turn lane all the way there?
Yeah, that is definitely...
And that would eliminate the cost of the landscaping.
Certainly. So it would work with the same section, the same 3-lane section that's out there today. So just from the decision to go to the 2-lane with a raised median was made a few years ago. And the real benefits of the section were just the safety like we talked about, the ability to have the landscaping. I think even though it costs more, I think people wanted to have that so that to beautify the corridor. And then that controlled access, like I said, so that you have a little more defined places of turning.
Yeah, a big thing on that was the safety. When we got the library over here, we got the school, and if you allow people to,
But the median's not gonna go down there.
you allow people to turn anyways like they are now, it gives a bigger risk. And that was a major concern about the median.
But can you show us where the median stops again? I didn't think it went down to the elementary school.
Wait, we don't have a proposed slide on here, right? We have that one.
No, you were going, I would use the project limits map.
We can use this right here.
There we go.
You're correct. The median stops at Western. So
It actually looks like it stops in front of City Hall. It stops right in front of that.
right, yeah. Well, Western's right here. Right.
Yeah,
across
okay,
the street.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think ideally we actually wanted the whole corridor to have the raised median, but with how many businesses are east of there, and then the right-of-way constraints. So, like for example, on this west side, we have room. I think it's about 100 feet or 120 feet of space to build sidewalks, roads, all that. It narrows down to 60 feet, 80 feet on that eastern side, so it just wasn't an option. But I think, to be honest, if there was room, we would have looked for a raised median in the right section of that. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, are the rocks, the bigger rocks, would they be put in there so people can't take them or throw them over there?
I don't think they would be glued down necessarily. So yeah, there would be a slight concern of maybe not stealing them, but maybe them becoming loose, like it with a car that maybe goes over the curb on accident. There would be some maintenance of that. In my personal experience, when I've tried to glue down rocks, or like decomposed granite or smaller rocks, it doesn't usually work. My kids just still grab it and throw it.
So for the entirety of the project, Mcleroy is going to be a one-lane eastbound road?
The portions that are under construction,
Yes.
yes. So
You just move the eastbound lane from one side to the other,
yes, ma'am.
but it'll always be a one-way?
Yes.
Except
When-
for the total time of the project?
So like for this first phase, where we're doing everything east of Opal, the west of Opal section will be both ways.
Right, but when you're working on
Yeah.
a particular phase,
It'll only be
it'll
east.
only be one way.
Yes, ma'am.
And then when you get to the other side, it'll still be one way.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a thought about putting a light at Amber, where the fire station is, going across into the rec center?
A traffic signal? No, there has not been a thought. We could run signal, so normally you don't like to place signals unless it warrants enough traffic or pedestrian activity or accidents. From my experience, it wouldn't be even close for there to be enough traffic there. Recently, traffic is increased at Amber. I drive it every day. But that is because people are using it instead of Knowles to get
But
to
you're gonna
my
have a
car.
walkway, crosswalk there
Yes.
without a light.
There is one existing there without a light. So we will enhance it with a push button that flashes the beacon. But it wouldn't warrant a full traffic signal.
Okay, you're gonna have an extra signal light.
Thank you.
There is a signal light presently at, no,
There was, yes, ma'am.
okay. Western is where you come in, it's where you're starting this project. That is a very dangerous corner. That happens to be my street.
Western
There
right
is a
here?
curve there. Yes, there is a curve there and a house right on the corner. And you cannot, if those people park in their driveway, you cannot get out of that street without pulling into the intersection. And those people are going 40 miles an hour.
It is a challenge, certainly. We've been working with those two homes actually recently about we're building a sidewalk in their yard. I'll say the one maybe benefit we will have is we are lengthening their driveway a bit, so it's hard to tell from here, but the curb line of their drive is actually moving towards the middle, and so there'll be a little more space for you to pull up, but that is a concern.
It's a very dangerous intersection.
Yeah. We can take a look at that again and see if there's anything else we can do to try to help that. We call it sight triangle, being able to look left and right. We can take another look at that, but just off the top of my head, that's a challenge. Maybe that'd be hard to fix.
Thank you.
The sidewalks with the blinking things, if you think about making them where when you push one side, it goes for both sides.
Okay.
I know some on Basswood, it goes on the one side, then you have to push it in the middle and you go, but,
Yeah.
you know, so that people come, when it's all working, come and go, you know, in both ways, someone's crossing.
Yep. Yeah. We so often we call that single stage or dual stage crossings. When the medians are that wide, I think they're pretty wide on Basswood. Sometimes the state requires that we have 2 push buttons, one in the middle and then on the other side. But you can connect them. So like the ones at the roundabout that we're putting in, you'll push one button and they'll all light up.
Yeah.
And that's how they're operating at WJ Bros right now.
Okay.
Can we go back to the slide with all the phases,
With what?
with all the phases of Mcleroy? Just want to mention something. So
We can't hear you.
Is your mic down?
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I'm Gabe. I've met many of y'all. I'm also a resident, so I've got a complaint. But, a couple of things. Big projects like these, it takes a lot of time and planning, so appreciate y'all coming out to hear and be informed, as opposed to Facebook, which is going to be the death of society. But in Saginaw, Texas, we're graced. I think we lead the nation on Facebook of civil engineers per capita. Everybody's a civil engineer, a traffic engineer, you name it. So in defense of my bosses, the mayor and city council, I just want to mention a couple things. How did we select these streets to bring to voters? So about 3 years ago, was it 3 years ago, we did the pavement assessment?
Yes.
Yeah, so
4 years ago.
or 4 years ago, we hired a firm to do a pavement assessment. So you and I could walk a street and say, oh, that needs to be fixed, or that's a 7 out of 10. So this pavement assessment they had, was it LiDAR or ground penetrating radar, some newfangled technology? It went over every street in Saginaw, and then it, through an algorithm, it calculates a pavement score that is completely objective. So the most important street, Miss Spindor, is not Western. It is Downington Trail, because that's my street. No, that's kidding. I say that because the data makes it somewhat easy, although the mayor and council will still hear complaints, to make it objective. So we can say, okay, this street is X. So I'll tell you, and I'm complaining because I live on the east side, 1, 2B, and 2A, that's my route kind of coming to work, they're terrible. And as of right now, I think they're the worst rated streets in the city. Now, we're planning on that, likely for a future bond election.
Are they worse than industrial?
Do you know, Randy, is industrial the worst?
All right, so the pink is the worst scored major road in the city. The pink phase 1.
So the pink section would be like from Blue Mountain to by the National Guard property on Mcleroy. It's rough.
It was an 11 out of 100.
Yeah, it's, so we're working on that. Now, the good news, somebody had mentioned financing. 2A, 2B, and 1 are in a financing district, 2B and 1 are in a financing district that we set up called the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. The county, Tarrant County College, and the city are putting money aside to be used for infrastructure only in that area. So we have a partial funding source for some of this. And we've talked about starting the design on 1 probably early next year. The difficulty for street projects, I'm not an engineer, thank God, but in Saginaw is most of our street projects require a lot of storm drainage sewer because it's so flat. The north section of Knowles, if y'all are aware, that was like a giant storm sewer with some pavement on top because it's very flat there. I'm trying to think, John Kennedy and, do you remember some of those streets? Leatherman, yeah, it was terrible. So now that that's been improved, but it adds to the cost. So I see comments like, why are streets this expensive? Well, it's streets plus a lot of other stuff. So, again, I'm a resident, I'm complaining. I pay your salary. Also, in a weird roundabout way, I pay part of my own salary. But we're working on design for 1 and 2, and likely these are projects that would come to voters in the future.
Yes, well said. Thank you.
And I like just throwing it out there because everybody's you can kind of feel the room, see what the flavor is for the old design options. I'm low maintenance in the future, that'd be my preference, so I'm not gonna show my cards too much. But I also think I love everyone in this room, but let's say if we go with native grasses and wildflowers, City Hall's gonna get lit up. Why are you not mowing? I'm gonna blame the city engineer. I'm not gonna take
No, I
responsibility.
didn't place any stickers.
No, that assumes people read and pay attention, which is kind of a stretch. No, I just speak. Yeah, sorry.
I think Randy had.
Hey, Gabe, just touch on the industrial, that project over there was worse than it is over by Fuel City right now, so it's under construction. With our partners on that project.
That's a good point. So industrial, if y'all are familiar, at the intersection of Blue Mound and industrial there at Fuel City, the state, through a partnership, the state, the county, and the city, we're reconstructing 600 feet to the west. Is it 600 feet of the intersection? Which, if you go out there now, there's metal plates because it just gets beat to oblivion. I think
Fuel City and QT are putting money down.
yes, Fuel City and QT have participated. They donated right away. That project, I think, had over like 100 utility relocations.
111.
111. So beneath that intersection, there's a huge natural gas line, cable, water, an elementary school lost and found. I mean, it's just crazy. So when I see these comments on Facebook like, why don't you just pave it? Brothers and sisters, if it were only that simple, it would already be done. So that's good. That's underway. Is that a 12-month project or?
Yes.
Yeah. So it should be starting now, and then what would just be remaining for a future bond election would be from
West of Fuel City.
west of Fuel City to Saginaw Boulevard, which is also pretty in rough shape and takes a lot of industrial truck traffic.
Thank you all for letting me take my steps in today. While you have that map up, the whole reason why I'm here tonight is because I watched the meeting a couple weeks ago where you presented this plan to council and unfortunately had to mention that 36 full-grown trees have to be taken out. I don't know if you're done with your presentation yet or if you're going to get to that point, but while we had the map up, I wanted everybody here to kind of, one of the reasons why I'm asking that we have nice landscaping is because some of the existing landscaping that we have been paying to maintain for 20 years is just being uprooted. So there are about 6 or 8 trees in front of the police department that understandably, even after my little adventure of researching them, they have to go. They are in the way of power lines and they're already hacked up anyways, and so those have to go. Then there are 31 trees that are in between Knowles and Roberts Drive, which is right in front and across the street from the new fire station. And that is all where the median's going to be. And I heard somebody say, why do we need the median? And, you know, part of the reason why, at least I think, that the trees have to go is because with the median and with the water line and with the new sidewalk and everything, it's gonna be a couple inches away from the root system of the tree. And so, I mean, I just wanted everybody to kind of hear that because, you know, if y'all plant some 2-3-year-old elm trees, it's not the same as 25-year-old full-grown trees. My favorite streets to drive on in Saginaw are the streets with trees. You know, you drive down W.J. Boas, you feel like you're in like a little, you know, forest. You drive down Knowles. I'm very happy that the city planted a bunch of new ones on the left. You drive down Main and you see those. And so, yeah, I just wanted everybody to kind of think of that too, because the existing ecosystem is going to have to be shifted and moved for various reasons.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, I understand the sentiment.
As we put the trees in and stuff, we're really paying attention to, you know, how far they are from sidewalks, and then also too, we're not going to plant big trees underneath, power lines and stuff, so, that's a mistake we don't want to make. I mean, we just redid that whole ordinance, and we were sitting here looking at it, and the city ordinance said, well, you can plant a 2-inch tree here, or you can plant, say, you can plant 2 2-inch trees, or you can plant 1 4-inch trees. And I'm like, the size of when you plant it doesn't matter. It's 15 years from now, the size of the tree is going to be. And so, Mary helped us out a lot there. She knows a lot about agriculture and stuff. We really revamped that to get us out of trouble. Because I can tell you, in the city right now, one of the biggest expenses we got in sidewalks is the ordinance we had allowed people to plant trees, and now it's popping up the sidewalks. And it's a huge expense. So we're trying to address it like that.
And so we're being more intentional and looking further down the road with even the trees we're planting here. So we're planting, I believe, over 20 number of trees.
Yeah, it's like 30 right now.
Yeah, almost 30 trees being planted. Now the location of where they go, and then what is the mature size of those trees is what we're focusing on to make sure that they're future proof. But totally understand the sentiment. The other context too, I think you briefly mentioned it, was that for some reason the main water line that runs down this road, that's fairly large, is underneath all of those mature trees. So there's a conflict with that as well. So that was another factor into that decision. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a question or a comment on raised medians. I guess it has to do with my age, but like over on 156, where everything is concrete, the street, the median and everything, at nighttime, it is challenging. I mean, challenging. I noticed a few people have actually took it on themselves to put on reflective markers for the turnings and stuff. But with the center medians that you have here, it'd be easier to distinguish. But when you're concrete to concrete, at night, it's tough to see the turn-ins and that sort of stuff.
Yes, sir.
Tough on your tires.
Did everyone hear his comment?
Repeat it.
He was saying, especially on 156, where the raised median is the same color concrete as the lanes, it can be tough to tell the difference, especially at night.
Marking. Years ago, they would paint the curve yellow or something, you know what I mean?
So
when it's all the same color at night, to a person in their 60s, it's a challenge to see what's what.
So 156 is owned and was paid for by TxDOT, and so they don't do a lot of Stanford colored concrete.
That's why a few people have done their own.
And they're actively getting rid of maintenance, like the options we showed, where you have to mow, irrigate, weed control, stuff like that. So,
but I mean, it'd be easier to see a median if it had grass on it, had stones or something, where it's just concrete.
Sure.
It could be tough to see at night.
All right, any other questions? We're happy to stick around too, and if you want to point at the boards and ask questions about where you live or drive or walk, we'll stay here for as long as y'all are here. So there's also cookies in drinks in the background. Thank you, Pedro. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you all for coming.